Hey, good Tuesday evening, everyone. This is State Representative Brad Halbrook. Welcome to the Illinois Freedom Caucus Tuesday night roundtable, and a little smaller crew this evening, but a great crew nonetheless. We have Representative Dan Calkins from Decatur and our State Director Colin Mosley. Gentlemen, welcome tonight. Any opening thoughts before we get into our slides here real quick?
Have you noticed that your phone is a little slower? I don't know my phone, my internet service. I don't know what's going on. It just seems like things have slowed down a little bit here over the weekend.
Yeah.
Election season.
It's what?
Election season.
Election season, yeah. That's what I'm thinking too.
Well, I think some marketing company has sold my text number to a bunch of political folks, because I get about 2 texts an hour trying to fundraise. But anyhow, that's the way it goes. So anyhow,
it's only for the mega donors. They do that too, really.
Yeah. Wealthy farmers.
Well, they've got me confused with some of those, evidently.
You and JD.
Yeah. Hey, guys, let's get into our program this evening. So tonight we're going to talk about the state prison closures and the news that's making, and this fascination with Governor Pritzker and the president to want to funnel money. Well, even the governor of Michigan that wants to subsidize and funnel money to our foreign adversaries, the Chinese communists. We've been talking about that issue. We're going to continue to talk about it as it continues to gain more of a spotlight on the national scene. And so with that, if I can advance our slide. Yeah, if I can advance the slide.
Drum roll.
There we go. Internet's a great thing when it works. So
okay. I'll cut that, Brad. Okay.
So tonight we're going to talk about the prison closures, Stateville, Logan Correctional. Recently in the news here, stuff's going on. We've had a judge intervene about Stateville. Dan, I know this Logan Correctional and the women's facility is part of that's in your area, part of it's next to your district that you serve. I know you're paying a lot of attention to this issue. I'll just throw it over to you, Dan, and Colin. You guys can kind of go back and forth about this matter.
Well, this is, I think it's economic disaster and what's going on, but it all goes back to priorities and funding. And over the last 8 years, 10 years, the state of Illinois, in its infinite wisdom, has failed to provide enough money through the Department of Corrections to keep these facilities up and running. It's been, I don't know, I guess you compare it to the Edgar pension ramp, in that we'll just defer, and then we'll catch up at the end of the game. You know, we'll score 3 touchdowns with 2 minutes to go. And what's this finally, the correctional facilities have gotten so run down and so bad that the court stepped in on Stateville. And I think the state, knows that the same thing is going to happen at Logan over in Lincoln. And so they've come up with this brilliant plan. They're going to build a couple of new prisons. It's $900 million. Nobody's seen the plan. Nobody's talking in the administration about what the real plan is. And they're playing with people's lives, family, real family, state employees, the folks that go to work every day in these prisons, one of probably the worst jobs, in the state of Illinois. And it's heartbreaking. And then what this is going to do to the communities. I mean, this is an economic driver in these communities. I've talked about it, and there was an article published this weekend, I think. But, if I were a member of the AFSCME union and my dues were being used to politely influence elected officials, Democrats, and that's where their money goes, to the Democrats, and the people that we, I put in office were doing this to me, I'd be mad as hell. Mm-hmm. I'd be over it. I mean, and I don't know what we can do is in a super minority. But if some of these folks, decided to get on board and help us flip a few of these seats in the November election, I think that would send a huge message to the Democrat caucus and governor. He's got an election coming up in 2 years. That you're not going to. That's how you do it. These unions have used their money to buy influence in Springfield, and they've gotten their contracts and all that. But now they're getting screwed over by the people that they've supported for decades. And there's only one way to fix it, and that's to show your strength and vote out some of these guys this November. And I think that sends a huge message.
And this stuff always reminds me how quickly the governor is willing to forget people. You're useful until you're not, and he's kind of like a mafia boss, really. I mean, he wants all these AFSCME people. He wants state workers. He wants to parade around, and I think he even did that during the last governor's race, parading around even some of the state facilities in central and southern Illinois. But as soon as you have any threat, this is all about inhumane living conditions for inmates at Stateville. Logan is more of a logistic issue too, on top of repairs. But the other thing that's so funny to me is they're wanting to relocate Logan to a more urban area. Now, why would that be when it's been just fine where it's been for decades, unless it's to hand out more state union jobs to Democrat voters or potential Democrat voters? I mean, to me, it's sort of a no-brainer. You put as many. That's how it used to be in the old days, right? When you walked around with the state job packets, when it was actually still that way. I think when Pat Quinn was governor, that's the truth. And so you put these facilities somewhere where you can get voters employed by the state of Illinois, and there you go. But it's going to be devastating to local economies. And I mean, these are huge employers. We've got wonderful people, a lot of wonderful people that work for these places. I just can't imagine taking that away. My father works for a prison just south of Logan at a male facility. And I don't know what it would do. I mean, it would be devastating to lose the prison there. I mean, it's just down here. That's just the way it is. But anyway, long story short, the governor is fully prepared to abandon these people if it serves him better. And by the way, we could have repaired these two facilities with the money we spent on illegal immigrants.
We could have built new facilities the last 2 years. The money we've spent the last 2 years, right, over $2 billion. I mean, they're projecting a $900 million cost. So it's going to be over $1 billion. I mean, just the government accounting.
Well, one thing you can count on with these government projects is they will be over time and they will be over budget. And
absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, Dan had great points. I mean, we're spending $1 billion+ a year on illegal aliens. That's just the stuff that we can tag. We know where it's going. That's right. In addition to all the other stuff that's just granted to the city of Chicago for them to do at will. That's going to end up in the immigrant illegal alien issue management. Right. And again, there's just this reoccurring theme. DNR, over 400 projects. Over $1 billion worth of backlog of deferred maintenance. It's just the list goes on and on and on, but it's just easier, evidently, just to let it run completely down. And then, by the way, we have to spend $1 billion on a new facility or facilities. It's just, I don't know that it's any way to run a train, gentlemen.
And just to put a little more salt in the wound, part of their argument for moving Logan is because of the female inmate population. Well, what's a female inmate? What is a woman? These people don't freaking know. And the reason we know that is because of how many cases we've already heard about of male inmates pretending to be women, getting put in female facilities, and then going crazy, beating people, raping. A woman that has a male genitalia apparently can still commit rape the way a man would.
Right. So, and there's been resulting pregnancies, not to dive into it any further, but there has been resulting pregnancies from that. So
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, hey, gentlemen, the next subject here continues to come to the forefront. Vice presidential candidate J.D. Vance held a rally in Michigan recently. That's where one of the other GOTION battery plants is being located, next to the one in Manteno, Illinois, kind of further highlighting this issue that the government of Michigan, the government of Illinois, wants to give hundreds of millions of tax dollars to these foreign adversaries, the Chinese communists. I think this is really important. If you've seen the recent release movie of Reagan, how he seen the movement of the Russian communists coming into the United States back in the 50s, and how he studied them and rose to power to ultimately defeat them in the late 80s. And gentlemen, here we are 40 plus years later, and we've got our government officials that are opening up their arms and throwing cash at these foreign adversaries, these communists. It just seems insane to me.
Well, it is. And, one of the things that we were told by Gorbachev and others that have, predicted the downfall of the United States is that we'll fall from within.
Mm-hmm.
Don't need to invade us. There was an article that came out today from Governor Whitmer and former Governor Cuomo in New York. Chief of staff was a Chinese spy. Their chief of staff, Governor Whitmer, is it Whitmer in New York, or is that Michigan? Hochul. Anyway, the governor of New York and her predecessor, this lady, had infiltrated their administration. She was the governor's chief of staff before getting assigned to another state job, with getting the Chinese access to the governor and getting Chinese papers to fly over to the United States on the pretext of meeting with New York officials. It makes you wonder what's going on in Michigan and Illinois. Have we been infiltrated? Is there someone pulling the strings? I mean, because this makes no sense.
Right.
The federal government's already said, hey, this company is run,
right,
by the Chinese military, the Chinese government, the communists. Why are we even considering giving them these kinds of tax incentives, let alone letting them own the facility, owning land in Illinois? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, there's something that's not right.
Well, and we've talked about, in the way these businesses are run. I mean, the Americans, or nobody can go to China and just open up a U.S. Owned only company in China. It's got to have Chinese ownership. It's in their bylaws that they have to have membership in the Chinese Communist Party. And spying is the order of the day on these companies wherever they're located in the world, whether it's in Africa or the United States or whatever. It's just the order of the day. And why our government officials want to continue this buy-in with these adversaries, it just defies common thinking and logic here.
Well, it is, and the thing that interests me too is to the people, to the everyday working people, right? The dinner table working families. I mean, what do you want your tax dollars to be spent on? You want your family to be protected. You want your economy to be smooth. If you use public transportation, you certainly, I believe most working people do not want their tax dollars going to some special interest, political victory-based initiative that funds not only a hoax of an idea, but also the Chinese Communist Party. I mean, working families should be disgusted by all the things their tax dollars are spent on, including this. This doesn't help anybody. Right. All this is doing is propping up our governor for a political victory, and it's funding our enemies.
Right, on a hoax of an idea, because we see all these just a week and a half ago, the new manufactured vehicles caught on fire. Man, if I had an electrical vehicle, I would no way park it in my garage if it was attached to my house or even near my house. Mm-hmm. I just this and some, I don't know where I read this or seen this, but it seems like these fires are starting in the charging unit. It's not necessarily the battery, but it starts in the charging end of the thing. And so I guess it doesn't really matter if it's parked in your garage in your home, it's attached to your home, and it catches fire. It doesn't matter where it starts.
Right.
It doesn't matter. It's still, fire's a fire.
Right.
Yeah, so this whole EV thing is fraught with problems. Volkswagen this over the weekend is announced that it's looking at closing for the first time in the history of the company since World War II. Well, it's kind of when it got formed. But they're looking at closing 11 of their plants because their sales into China have dropped dramatically. Mm-hmm. And their EV, their move to these EV cars is well below expectation. Mm-hmm. And they're also facing the same thing that we talked about here. And that President Trump talks about, that when the Chinese start importing these EVs through Mexico and they come through with no tariff or such a small tariff, it doesn't matter, they will put the American car makers out of business, just like what's happening to Volkswagen in Germany. Yeah. Look no further, see the future, and be well informed.
Interesting thought here as we close out this subject. I saw a commercial on YouTube last night from Ford, and of course the push has been EVs and hybrids, but Ford run this commercial and it said big block letters. I believe this is right. I just seen it one time. It was a quick 15-second commercial. It says gas, hybrid, either EV or electric, your choice. And how now they put gas back in, it leads the commercial and said it's your choice. And so I just thought that was kind of interesting that they've kind of, but we've seen the headlines. Ford and Chevrolet, all these, U.S. and foreign manufacturers are bailing out of the EV production because it's expensive vehicles. The technology is not proven. People aren't buying them.
Stellantis delayed opening of that plant by at least a year.
Yep. Gentlemen, announcing this date here of the next town hall in kind of East Central Illinois, Champaign County, October the 8th, 6 o'clock at the Champaign County GOP headquarters there on Park Street. Colin, you're instrumental in setting this up. Anything we need to know about this? RSVPs, anything required? What do we need to know?
Give the Champaign County GOP a heads up if you want to join us, but no RSVP is required. Okay. It's going to be a great night to talk about the things going on in Springfield and here in Illinois in Champaign County.
Great. So, yeah, just to let them know, to make sure we got proper accommodations for everybody, just give them a call or an email. You can find them on the web or the Facebook. And here's how you find us, Colin, freedomcaucus.org, donate button there. And, of course, the Substack is continuing to be a great tool for us to communicate with everybody out there, in addition to the social media sites and the like. Anything new we need to know happening there, Colin, before we move on to the final goodbye?
Oh, I don't think so.
All right. With that, gentlemen, why don't we just close out unless anybody has any words of wisdom for the masses? All right. As always, we appreciate you guys tuning in, and it'd be great if you would like and subscribe and follow and share our content to help get the message out. And without further ado, we'll say good night for the evening, everyone, and we'll talk real soon.